Welcome into your Tuesday night show here on World Class Bullshitters. I'm your host, Jeff Hicks. You might know me from such things as those Ollie's videos and Stealing Solo. But folks, I'm not alone. Tonight, I am joined by my two co-hosts. First off, you know him, you love him, all the way from the Ripverse. Say hello to Andy Andrew.
What is going on, Jeff? What is going on, chat? I am recovering from a minor case of con crud from MegaCon over this last weekend, so excuse my voice. But it's fantastic to see you guys in the chat as always. I appreciate y'all. We appreciate y'all. Let's have some fun together.
I'm sad you got Mega Crud, but hopefully you have a good time tonight. Now, we're also joined by our other co-host for the evening, who's dealing with other issues from this time of year. From the great, very white north, say hello to the Script Doctor.
Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here. I am, of course, the Script Doctor. You might have seen me on a couple other channels as the one person that is not supporting chat or mass fan affirmation, but telling you what the information that I have learned, what it actually is, and not trying to sugarcoat it to fuel unjustified hatred or unjustified love for anything out there. But always be scrutiny, but always exercise some scrutiny, and always seek out what is really happening in the industry.
Now I want to know the drama, though. Like, what's going on where people want the truth sugar-coated and you're laying down the law? Like, what's the subject matter? What am I missing out on? I've been busy this week.
Well, I mean, I'll probably get a little bit of pushback for this, but maybe it's just only because I'm a couple episodes behind. But before the show, I was telling you guys, like, I was watching the Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Now, animation oddities aside, because it does look hyper detailed and way too smooth in some parts. It's framed as a what if, and I think they kind of nailed the Peter Parker personality, at that age, at his age of teenager, pretty well. And so far, I haven't seen the shoe drop when it comes to preaching certain ideology or identity politics or anything of that nature. And one of the interesting story aspects that I appreciated was a parallel between Peter's journey becoming a better hero as Spider-Man and Lonnie's journey. So Lonnie is Tombstone, and we see his origin, eventually his origin to becoming, the villain Tombstone. And they run parallel to each other. And I think it's actually not too bad of an approach so far. And sadly, no one's really watching it on Disney Plus, and I don't blame them. However, Disney Plus did lose, I think, under 1 million subs.
700,000.
Yeah, but they also increased their pricing for that as well. So they ended up actually making more money than they would have made way more if they kept those 700,000 or what have you. But they still managed to make some more money. So their stockholders are actually mixed on how to take that information, which is also bad because you don't want to be declining your customers, but also gaining more revenue. You want increased revenue and increased customers because that stabilizes your revenue.
I saw that, and we were going to talk about it on the show last week, but I didn't have enough information to do a whole podcast about it. But I've read that it's mostly due to the rising prices at Disney Plus and the stagnant content. What do you think has a bigger issue? What do you think is the bigger issue of the two culprits, the rising price or the stagnant content?
I think it does have to do with the stagnant content, but Disney is still pumping millions upon millions of dollars into generating new shows. They're doing the same kind of mistakes that the rest of the studio system is trying to shake themselves out of, which is putting all the resources into tentpole products for the streaming service as opposed to using proper diversity by diversifying the type of programming that they're putting on their streaming service so that it actually has a wider appeal. One of the more interesting aspects recently is that it appears they have updated their discretionary warning for some of their classics by saying that the following movie is going to be presented as it was originally intended, and it may have some aspects of it that current day people might find offensive, as opposed to going through all that other stuff with like the speeches or some sort of celebrity talking for 5-10 minutes about, it was a different time, and we now at Disney no longer support or enforce or convey these types of mentalities. This is part of art. So it seems like something has come from the top down to say, hey, let's dial it back a little here.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of that over the top I'm not going to say DEI because I don't want to use the wrong word to describe it or acronym in this case. But it seems like a lot of that forced crap that we lampooned in the beginning of all this has definitely been toned down because somebody has seen that it's just been the negative impact.
Yeah.
And the pendulum shift has already happened. That pendulum has been building a lot of momentum.
I miss the traditional discretion warnings because that was going to tell you how good a show was. Like this one's got
Yeah.
nudity or this one's got violence. It's like, all right, here we go. Like that's what it's for. I mean, sure, yes, responsible parents would be like, okay, I'm not going to have my kid at this age see that. But if they go out on date night and you're home alone with the television, you're going for the saucy, action heavy, sexy, movies or shows that are being broadcast on cable.
It's your duty as a
It is.
human being.
It's how you grow as an individual.
It's a rite of passage, dare I say.
Yeah.
So we got some stagnant content, is what people say in the chat. What else we got? People don't like Teen Peter. I also don't like Teen Peter Parker. So, script, I am watching this show. There I am back on camera. Sorry, folks. I'm watching the show too. I kind of stopped already because there are more episodes available to watch, but I'm not feeling the
drive.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
my reasoning, because I know most people are probably hung up on the race changes of the character. That's fine. I don't like the changes of the characters either. When Spider-Man has 1,000,001 different characters, it's like, just get a black character, get a Asian character, just pick one. They got him. Get a gay one. You don't have to change anybody. Spider-Man has got them all, and it makes sense because it's supposed to be just the real world, but with Spider-Man. So fine, do it that way. My complaint is I hate the costume. I really don't like the what's the word I'm looking for? The deconstructed suit, the trying to show. I hate any kind of superhero content where you're trying to watch a character build, because the problem we get is all of these shows assume they're going to be around forever. So they tease out the long, drawn out rise to the I got to earn the costume. No, you don't. It's just a suit. Like, we don't need to go down that rabbit hole tonight. But I feel like by the time we get to Spider-Man, quote unquote, this show ain't going to get renewed. And so it's just going to be like, we have watched so many different things about characters becoming the mantelpiece, becoming those characters that they're supposed to become. And I don't think that journey is as interesting as watching the characters just go on, everyday adventures. Hopefully this Spider-Man show picks it up a little, because Spider-Man's origin is, everybody knows it at this point.
Well, the thing is that the masses know, but the reason you have an origin story with any type of IP is to get the newer audience that doesn't know yet. Like you have to have that first experience, right? There's a value to that, but there's different ways it can be done. With regards to the Spider-Man, I saw a clip where Peter Parker was actually making fun of how he doesn't like his new suit and he wants more red in it. And I'm like, that's kind of interesting because you don't usually have a character critique of that nature. And the other part too is, so we all like gear porn. We like, our characters inventing something, but we don't want them to be dwelled on the invention part for like 22 minutes. You kind of want just that one kind of section of the show where maybe it's like 30 seconds or something where there's that trial and error, the Tony Stark figuring out how to fly stuff, building the armor bit by bit. Spider-Man, like I say, in The Amazing Spider-Man, figuring out the web shooters, how he puts that together. That was actually like a cool scene. So we like those little bit moments to show a level of intelligence and problem solving with the character, because the goal is, as a good writer, is once you show them sort of invent something and solve a problem, is that you've given the reader or the viewer, in this case, because I'm also thinking about like scripts that I've been writing, you give them a frame of reference to say, oh, okay, so if they're challenged with a problem, we might see an inventive solution. And then that compels you as a writer and director and actor to bring forth your A game and like, well, what's the most creative and fun way I can solve this problem that I've now thrown my characters in? And when you kind of circumvent gear porn, or you elongate the journey of developing and building up, say, like a super suit or something of that nature, you kind of don't have fun. You kind of, you dwell on that part so that when you get to the actual conflict, you don't see the inventive nature of the character, or at least you don't make the connection between, solving the problem of the suit or the gear to solving the problem of the adversary in that scene. Because you've spent all this time on just the gear stuff. There's no character, there's no conflict, there's no third party to interact with. And I think that's probably one of the hangups that we've seen. I mean, especially with the montage that they had with Norman Osborn and Peter from various suits that were kind of straying away from Spider-Man. And oddly enough, when I saw that episode, I was reminded of Kevin Smith's run on the Green Hornet, and he did similar things with different costumes. But he only spent like one page on each costume, showing here's the costume, here's why it doesn't work, throwing it out in the trash, starting anew, until they get into basically just the fedora, the trench coat, and the mask. So yeah.
How bad was that Green Hornet movie with Seth Rogen?
Oh God, it's such a disappointment in every sense.
I used to find him funny. Now I find him very annoying, to the point where I just don't watch anything he's a part of.
What's weird is that, so the guy that they got to play Kato was actually awesome. He did well, but Seth Rogen was Seth Rogen, and then he brought in Seth Rogenisms there with regards to even like, what was it? The bad guy wanted to have some sort of like villain code name, and he was trying to figure it out, and he's more obsessed of that than just doing what he was supposed to be set out to do, which I can't remember what that was anymore. And it misses all the fun of what the Green Hornet was, because the Green Hornet was a hero who posed as a villain to try and essentially do something that no other hero would do, which is, oh, I'll pretend to be a villain. I will try and cut myself in on piece of the action so that I can basically exercise it out of the city. But at the same time, because of my reputation as a Green Hornet, I have now put a gap in that power vacuum that can't be taken by another criminal entity, because they're all going to say, oh, that's the Green Hornet's turf now. And that's his operation that he's running. And the truth be told is that the operation has been completely closed down, but nobody dares to challenge it or question it because of fear of the Green Hornet's reputation coming after them. So if he were to, like, say, take over something like, say, the cocaine trade, then he, kicks them out or gets them arrested or whatever, and he takes over the development and whatnot. He just has to stop operations very slowly and subtly. And by the time people realize that there's no more cocaine trafficking in that city, the question being is like, well, who's going to have the balls to try and start up a new operation? And if you do, you're going to get the attention of the Green Hornet, right? So you've got that kind of angle to it. And I always thought that was pretty cool, and not just with the TV show, but with some of the comics and some of the pulps out there. And that's an IP that's just waiting to be, resurrected on another medium. But I don't remember who has the rights. I think Warner Brothers still has the rights for that. And
I was going to ask you if you think the pulps will come back, because I would love to see a cool pulpy noir style like superhero. I know they're doing Spider-Man noir, but I mean something that's of that era.
I'd love to see a proper the Phantom television show. They tried one in 2009, I think, but they modernized it, like in all the ways that they did. They said, oh, the skin tight suit is ridiculous. So what we'll do is we'll put him in this Power Rangers like padded vest and hood and motorcycle helmet mask, and just have him jump around for reasons. Oh, and he'll also have a multi-billion-dollar team in the Bengala jungle that's has a support system to help him as a lone warrior, as opposed to just that one assistant who helps in the Skull Cave, and all the archives of previous Phantoms to give him knowledge and training to be the Ghost Who Walks.
Kit Walker.
Good old Kit Walker, yep.
Yeah, I wish they could have done more with that. I even liked the movie. I wish they would have done... I wish it would have been successful enough to justify one more.
Well, the movie, crazily enough, it was just poorly marketed. And it had at least when I was growing up, it had a really short theater run. I think only a few weeks before all you see it on TV. I mean, if you take a look at that old Paramount trailer, it's really boring.
And then they had, was it Slam Evil or Punch Evil was the slogan?
Something like that, yeah.
It was very generic. I mean, to a fault. I just watched the Phantom 2040 cartoon. So I was pumped for that movie when they announced it. And then we went to the store and bought comic books, and I got the action figure on the horse for Christmas, and the figure is terrible looking because he's got like a plum for a head. It's not a good Phantom toy, but the Phantom is a bitchin' character that I wish.
He is. Oh man, the Phantom 2040 with the Resource Wars and that like French style animation was pretty cool.
Yep, very Eon Flux. I think it is. Well, it is the Eon Flux guy for sure who did that. I wish. I wish that could get more of a season. Sorry, I wish that could get a season revival as well. There's so many of these shows that people want to see come back. This Phantom 2040 is one of those ones in the back of my mind that, look, a lot of this stuff, and people are thinking like, why would you guys talk about this new Spider-Man show? It's clearly for kids. Is it though? Because the first piece of merchandise that's available is a $200 doll. I've used that argument before, but it's not just for kids. All of this superhero content is for the kids and the kids who didn't grow up and the people who like these characters. And I understand you gotta be able to sell toys and do this stuff, but all of these toys and all of these things worked up until recently. So all the arguments that a lot of these people have about these shows being different, it's just for the sake of being different. And that's why, when you brought up X-Men and stuff earlier off air, that show works because it resonates with this generation. And we are the generation that all this geek culture, kid, quote unquote, kid stuff is for. So why not just make it appeal to us as well in terms of like, I don't know, adult Spider-Man. He doesn't need to have like marital problems or tax issues, but you could put him in college and be more relatable.
That's all about how much. It depends on the type of content that you do with the characters, right, or with the property. Because there are a lot of us grew up with these characters as little kids. I was watching Spider-Man, X-Men, Batman, all that when I was 6 years old, right, 5, 6 years old, and up. But there's also plenty of content for all of those same characters I just named and more that are absolutely not appropriate for kids. So it just comes down to like, are you putting out good content and you have a target audience, you understand how to market towards that audience, and you put out quality there that gets them excited, that gets them invested, and then eventually that makes them want to share that with their younger sibling or their child, right? Or maybe they've got a little cousin or whatever, right? Niece, nephew, what have you. And then that's when you're like, okay, so now where's the content of these properties that is actually appropriate for these kids? Because there's a lot of Spider-Man comics I would never put in the hands of a little kid.
No.
There's a lot of Batman comics I would never put in the hands of a little kid, right?
Yeah,
and I'm not even talking about Bat Dog. So you don't even have to go there.
Just Death in the Family is an easy one right there. That's way too adult.
No, it's horrific for a little kid.
Well, just the first issue alone, you don't see anything, but if you just read it and you figure out what the actual context is, you're like, that's pretty dark. Well, one of the tricks is that, like, this is what I learned when I was starting as a writer, especially when it came to like kids content. It was you have to write with the idea that there's a high likelihood the parent might be watching with the kid, so try to give something for the parent to enjoy as well. And that's the other part too, because
that way they can have that connection,
you have that connection, or you share with them an inside joke that it could probably walk the edge of being inappropriate, but it'll definitely go over the kid's head. But it gives that nice little wink and a laugh for the adult, and then the kid can be like, "Well, what's so funny about that?" And the adult says, "You know what? When you get older, you're going to really appreciate that joke." But there's two reasons that you do that. The first one is you hook the kid when they're young. The second part is 20 years later, when they go back to watch the show, they pick up on that extra joke and they actually appreciate it in a different light. And it doesn't really cross any boundaries, because the worst thing you can do is write a children's show targeted for children at the age with which they're going to be seeing it and not give them anything to look back on in reverence. Like, that's one of the things that's brilliant about the 60s Batman show, the William Dozier show with Adam West and Burt Ward, is that on a child's level, you can watch it and completely appreciate it for what it is. But as an adult, you really have fun with it because there's a bunch of political inside jokes there on the left and on the right that just make you realize how little we've actually come progressively when it comes to like politics and bureaucracy, but also the fact that these are kind of universal problems that plague society as a whole. And then the next show that would actually be a great example of this is the family time show Zorro with Duncan Ruger back in the early 90s. That one also has actually a guest appearance from Adam West, but it's really just a show of like strong morality tales, and they make fun of some politics here, such as excessive taxes and the abuse of local government with that tax money, and how they can turn how on a whim if you have a bad leader, that bad leader can turn your lovely little town into a police state. And it is up to you as the citizen to not let that happen. And these are all good morality plays that take a page from history, but also frame it in a way that's digestible for kids and something that adults can appreciate.
Excuse me. I agree with that.
Now the Spider-Man cartoon's not quite getting there yet, but
no, I don't think it ever will.
No.
I think Spider-Man has an identity that's just as kid-friendly as like the regular timeline, and we'll never get anything more mature. And when we do, like if we were to, it would be treated as this like huge moment, like, oh my god, Spider-Man's dark. It's like, we're not looking for dark. It's just, you know.
Also, clearly they didn't pick up a Spider-Man comic in the 90s.
I mean, I will say this: the Sensational Spider-Man was the best we've ever had, and it balanced like the teenage Peter Parker, and we could see him grow. And I wanted to see what he would like when he get into college, and then out of the college, if it got like an 8-season run, because it was Greg Weisman and his team just knocked it out of the park. I mean, even though it wasn't like a one-to-one adaptation of some of the books, they had fun with the interpretation, and it did feel more authentic than what we got with like what Ultimate Spider-Man and the Web Warriors, and even to the Fox Kids show, which had a lot of fun to it, but it was a very cheap show, like constantly reusing effects and animation over and over and over.
Second season, it was like, hey man, Spider-Man's jumping away from this explosion. But why is he jumping away from Doc Ock? That's okay. Now he's fighting the Hobgoblin again. It's like, what?
Yeah.
We didn't care. We noticed. We just didn't care.
But the toys were actually pretty good.
Oh yeah, I got a couple up on the shelf right now.
I've got the 3 Spider Slayer robots in a bin somewhere.
Nice.
Avi Arad wanted to sell those so bad. He made the Hobgoblin the villain of that show. If you look at any marketing material for it, you think that the Hobgoblin is the Spider-Man, the greatest villain of all time. But no, it's just because they wanted that toy to be produced because it was kind of pricey, and well, it didn't really matter.
It didn't matter. Well, they knew they could kill 2 birds with 1 stone, because essentially with the Hobgoblin, the base mold would just be without the cape and the head. So you just have a new head, and it's the same mold and the same glider, and you've got 2 toys for almost the price of 1.05.
I never got the I like the Hobgoblin, but I don't buy any of his merchandise. I just have I have most of his appearances in the books, so I like him that way.
Yep.
John Thomas, thank you very much for your super chat. First one of the night, folks. He says, so the TMNT trailer from last week. I don't know if it was released prior. That Nightmare Fuel animation is going to be on Nickelodeon this month. WOD Gordita, Mortal Gordita. Gordita Strikes Back. Oh, word of the day is Gordita. To live free or Gordita hard.
Wrongfully Gordita'd.
Honey, I Shrunk the Gordita.
Gordita Man.
To live and die in Gordita.
Fast Times at Gordita High.
Black Gordita Down.
Gordita Brothers.
Saving Privates Gordita?
Better than Saving Gordita's Privates.
Yeah. They're stuffed on the inside, so leave them be. Gordita and the Sundance... Wait. Gordita Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Okay.
All the President's Gorditas.
Independence Gordita.
Gordita Force One.
And a fistful of Gorditas.
Wild Gordita.
Inspector Gordita.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Gordita.
Get Gordita.
Dude, where's my Gordita?
Battlefield Gordita.
Pacific Gordita.
Journey to the center of the Gordita.
Ooh, that's a delicious journey.
The dream.
Gordita juice.
Lord of the Gorditas.
Now, John, thank you very much for the word of the day. I checked out the trailer you tagged me in on Twitter. Just admittedly, it's not a cartoon I'm going to check out. I'm more of a 87 to 03 Turtles guy. First run to, I guess, reappearance. Shit, technically 84 is the first run in the comic. But you guys already know that. So I probably won't watch this. I only collect a couple Turtles things here and there, but I do play the video games. That's kind of where my Turtles fandom still lives. And I do intend on reading The Last Ronin in the future because I know the premise and it just sounds awesome. So
It's a good book. The follow-up stuff was they shouldn't have done.
well, that's disappointing to know.
Well,
There's
you know,
follow-up.
modern comics, if something does well, they got to beat it into the ground.
Folks,
Well,
Stealing Solo 2 is on its way to you this tax season. Be on the lookout for that very soon from WCBS. You brought it up, not me.
It's fair.
Real quick, since we're talking about shows on Paramount Plus, I went down a rabbit hole this weekend, guys. The audience will like this in terms of the movies. I'm catching up on all the Star Trek films I've never seen. So, Undiscovered Country got 2 thumbs up from me, and I really liked Star Trek First Contact. So, folks, I will start doing some stuff for you guys of, hey, movies I never saw when they first came out type of thing. And if you guys like it, we'll do more stuff like that. But, Script, you're the big Star Trek guy. Of the 2 films I mentioned, which do you prefer?
Undiscovered Country. There's lots to appreciate with First Contact, but I think the ending is actually what fans love the most about it because there's a lot of weird logic errors leading up to that point. And there's also some behaviors that are a little out of character for people like the Doctor and Picard, and not so much on Deanna Troi, a little bit on Riker, but yeah, I mean James Cromwell kind of really sells it for what he's doing. It just feels like there's just something off overall of this film. It's like it feels like the actors are like doing a movie version of their characters as opposed to, carrying over their characters because Picard is way much more of an action star in the films than he ever was in the show.
I think one of those is to do with one of the Next Generation movies is the actions of Picard and the actions of Riker were flipped because Patrick Stewart wanted to do more stuff. I don't know if that's the one, but
that's where it started. It also helped that Jonathan Frakes was director of it, so he didn't want to have to do as much, on-screen work, so he could focus on directing the film. The other part too, and this is also controversial, is that they gave a hierarchy of power to the Borg when they're supposed to be a hive mind with no real leader, and they did this insectoid thing with the Queen Borg, the Borg Queen, and it kind of feels like it takes away the allegory of what the Borg stood for. And if you want to know what that is, just look at Russia circa 1917 to 1989.
I will give them credit though. They made the movie interesting, and the whole. I used to think Data was kind of lame, and then I understand that he's supposed to be the Spock surrogate.
Yep.
And so now I get him a little
Data.
more.
I like Data too. It's really funny. I was just the other day. I was talking to one of my writer friends who really likes Picard season 3, and he wanted like Star Trek Legacy to go on, and he pitched me this really fascinating idea that involves Data, and it's a tearjerker because it's very much follows the same type of emotional connection that the season 4 second episode Family did. And that's for any Star Trek fans out there. That's after the 2-parter, The Best of Both Worlds, where Picard gets assimilated and then rescued, and then he goes back to his home in France, in Le Bar, France, and kind of reconnects with his brother and meets his nephew. And his nephew is essentially like little Jean-Luc, in all these ways. And you got this really powerful connection. And then of course there's the Worf story with his mother and his family and discommodation and all that stuff. And then you have this one thing which actually creates a continuity area between TNG and Picard, and that is Wesley Crusher, and we all hate him. He sees a hologram of his dad, who looks to be about 35, who's just done a holographic recording diary for his son, who is only a couple days old. But the way that they kind of frame it in Star Trek Picard is that Jack Crusher Sr. and Picard were like of the same age. But Picard is like 20 years older than Beverly Crusher. And Jack Crusher was the contemporary age to Beverly Crusher at the time. So it's, there's that. That was one of the flaws in Picard season 3.
Well, now that show was like all doom and gloom in the beginning, right? Everybody hated it, but it kind of picked itself back up. Is that what
The first two seasons were a mess, and then the third season tried to, well, it did its own thing using that cast, but they missed a couple of opportunities where they could have made the actions of season 1 and 2 actually have value, even though they were kind of like terribly written and whatnot. There's writing exercises you can incorporate into a follow-up season where you realize, oh, the incongruity of season 1 and 2 makes sense now because these were all the byproducts of the actions that were being set up for the climax of season 3. And you're like, oh, that's why this situation happened in this way, and why there are certain stopgaps from the characters, even if they tried to break the rules, where they still couldn't succeed and whatnot, because this thing was happening in the background. I think if Terry Matalas and his team had myself in the writer's room plus an extra 4 weeks, you could have ended up turning Picard season 3 into a far better season that would actually allow Star Trek fans, like the diehard ones of the traditional TNG era, would actually go back and enjoy seasons 1 and 2 slightly better than when they first encountered them, because those seasons would then have more significant meaning as it pertains to its resolution in season 3. And also, they should have brought back Denise Crosby.
I have yet to watch it, so probably never going to happen on my limited Star Trek Next Generation knowledge. But I just wanted to tell you guys how much I thought those movies were good, because I have in the past said, oh, I don't really like Next Generation movies. Well, I liked First Contact. I turned off the oh god, what was the other one I turned off?
Generations or Insurrection or Nemesis?
Insurrection. That's the one I turned off. Yeah. I was just like, this isn't terrible at all. I just have other things I need to do. But nothing's gonna
unlike Nemesis, which is terrible.
Oh, Tom Hardy one.
Yep, Tom Hardy was on a lot of cocaine. Speaking of which, during that film, and I also think he butted heads with Dina Meyer as well.
I like her.
I like her too. She's a really good actress. The only reason her career didn't take off is she stuck to her guns and said to a bunch of casting directors she's not going to get breast implants.
Good for her. Yeah. I wish her career would have been bigger, but I always think of her as Dizzy from Starship Troopers, and she's much better than Carmen. Carmen, you suck.
It does get really weird if you're reading the Heinlein book and you think of Dizzy as Dina Meyer, because Dizzy's a guy in the book.
Oh. Well, I like the drama they add with the love triangle. It adds a little something that's just not... That movie's got a lot of layers. I know it's not necessarily Verhoeven's best work. Some would argue that's RoboCop. Some would argue that's Total Recall. Some would argue it's some foreign film that we've never seen. Mm-hmm. But I do think Starship Troopers has a lot of interesting ideas and execution, and the effects are great too. It's kind of got everything. And I saw it at an age that I was way too young to appreciate it, but it was kind of cool to see it in theaters as a kid.
Starship Troopers took a lot of what was in the book and then ran with it in its own way. Because one of the things I appreciate about the book is that there is a parallel with regards to society between humans and bugs. Even though we didn't get to see much of bugs, you understood the fact that Heinlein was, even though he's very pro-military, he's basically saying, like, there's a reason why in a society like this, much of humanity is treated like drones, because they can't always take care of themselves. And when something bad does happen, that is how you kind of get them hook, line, and sinker. Because Johnny Rico went to the military because he had no other options. And after the attack on his home, and years later, he then reconnects with his father, who he thought he was dead this entire time, but his father just joined up to the military also because he had nothing else to do and he wanted revenge. And you're like, well, that's kind of interesting.
I need to read a lot more, just in general.
So do I. Listen, dude, I've read a lot, but like, you always have to read more. Always have to read more.
Yeah, I've been reading a lot of either like instructional stuff or more experimental stuff. I want to read more instructional, informative stuff, because I'm always wanting to learn to hone my storytelling craft. So if you have any recommendations for good writing books, script, always send them my way.
Writing books, there's only a few, but I'd definitely take a look at like Fyodor Dostoevsky. Just get one of his tomes of all of his short stories and long works and stuff, because it's really great example of very strong characters and how he's able to like convey motivation without it feeling like exposition.
I'll do that. I know who that is. Okay, so our friend Sherwood says, all right, 2 great years of WCBS. Yeah, the Chiefs poo the bed. I'll take it, doesn't matter, and a dookie, please. Thank you, Shrubbles08, for being here for 2 years, being a member for 2 whole years. That's 24 months, folks. Shrubbles08, thank you very much for all that. But I know you've been around a lot longer than just those 2 years. But yeah, the Chiefs did not perform well. Kendo was not happy. You can hear him talk about that on Thursday. Personally, I thought the Super Bowl was kind of lame. I didn't really enjoy any of it, but I had a good time with my friends, and this was all a good excuse to find the button. But here's the buttons you asked for. It doesn't matter is... It's funny, I said I was using it to delay myself, or delay that. I find the wrong button. It's the wrong rock. Here's the it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter!
And here's the other
It
rock.
doesn't matter what you think!
And finally, because you requested it as well...
What's that smell?
Oh yeah, brother, it's gross. Thank you, Shrubbles08. Shrubbles08 also has another request. I'll take a battleships and a Who's That Pokemon Buffalo Jeff, please.
So have you ever done DMT?
No, I haven't. And here is your other button request right here.
Who's that Pokemon? It's
Me, your old pal Buffalo Jeff.
The way the eyes fade out slowly is just unnerving.
Da-da-da. I'm good at making people uncomfortable.
Yeah, I can confirm that.
It's not like a thing I think about doing. It comes naturally, and I just do it to make myself laugh.
It's just organic. It's just what I do.
Yeah, ask Mary.
I'm aware.
Our friend Rod Thunderheart, who's been a member for 15 months, says, "Hail Jeff and Script and at Guy, See Through Love, original IP. A Spanish teacher who can become invisible when angry is shocked to discover the gym teacher can see her when invisible. Find Friesen Press." Folks, I supported Rod Thunderheart. I have a copy. The funny thing is, I move it all over, but I've shown it on camera constantly. I have a copy of See Through Love. Is this it down here? No, this is a different.
But do you support Joe Hendry?
I believe in Joe Hendry too, but I believe in Rod Thunderheart, folks. We here on the channel always want to bring you new, exciting things, because for as much as people want to complain about entertainment being bad or woke or garbage or lame or this or that, what do? We try to bring you the alternative. So Rod Thunderheart's got his own IP out there, See Through Love. I'm bringing you comic books like Stealing Solo, which you loved, Woke Busters, which is on its way, and Stealing Solo 2, which is in production. So we're here about making work. We're not here to just talk about it and complain about it. We're here to fix it and change it and create new IPs and put it out in the world. So that's what Rod Thunderheart's doing. That's what I do. That's what a lot of people do around here. And folks, we always thank you for checking out that stuff, because just because we're independent doesn't mean the quality is any lesser than what you get at the mainline, top of the charts, New York Times bestseller stuff. There's a lot of undiscovered talent out there. So take a chance on some original IPs and fan-made, well, not even fan-made, just lesser-known creators. Darian217, thank you very much, says, as long as we get to watch Uncle Ben take another shot, I'll tune in to see that one scene. Who's that Pokemon Uncle Ben, please? Well, Uncle Ben is just dead already. So I don't think we'll be seeing him anytime soon on this show.
Yeah, and that version, yeah.
Do you miss him?
Why?
Yeah, why not? I mean, well, the thing is that you always want that. That was one of the things from the early '90s cartoon is you didn't really get to see Uncle Ben until like midway into the series, but you always heard about him.
Yeah, you got flashbacks with him.
yeah, here and there, especially like when he was like young Peter, like teaching him how to fish, and then young Peter meeting Octavius as a kid. I
Yep,
remember
that's the
those.
same episode because they're on a bridge talking, and then he
Yeah.
takes to that science class thing. I remember that one very well.
Yeah, and then of course, like in the Spectacular Spider-Man, it's Uncle Ben kind of comes back when he's fighting off the Venom symbiote. And this in the Your Neighbor Spider-Man, it's because it's an alternate universe. Ben has actually departed prior to Peter getting his powers, and he doesn't even get his powers. He gets his powers because Doctor Strange was tracking something that was hopping universes, and somehow the mutated spider comes through the portal and then lands on Peter and bites him.
Yeah, I didn't like that at all.
No, I didn't
was
like
kind
that
of
either.
stupid. There's just we don't really need some of these things to change. Like you can't not have Batman's parents get shot, and it's a radioactive spider. That's just the thing it is. I get it. Oh, we know more about radiation today. I get it, but the Fantastic Four should still be pelted by cosmic rays, not, flying through magnetic whatever, blah,
Or
blah,
going
blah.
to
I
the
don't want-
negative zone, or
Yeah, don't give me all the science. Give me the fun. Give me the broad strokes.
Yeah.
And a radioactive spider. Because none of these shows ever make Peter Parker an outcast or a loser. They always give him like a buddy to make him okay. It's just like he's not a loser. He's got a friend. But they don't ever make you not want to be him. They make him still kind of appealing as like, oh, to be like him. No, it's his life's supposed to suck hard and you don't want to be anything like him, but Spider-Man's cool and that's what you want and that's what you dream about being.
it's
And
the
I
ultimate
don't-
dichotomy. Yeah.
They don't put that in anything anymore, man. And I only bring it to people's attention not because I want Spider-Man to be accurate to a book. I want there to be challenging themes and entertainment for everybody across the board because I'll sound like a PSA. Critical thinking's important, and you got to get people you got to just hit them with knowledge at every level you can. And I don't mean you need a great minds think alike factoids segment with the genie like on one Saturday morning. I'm talking about maybe teach thematic story structure like in an episode of Batman, or have long-running narrative where you have to pay attention to a series of episodes because that's how life works. Not every week is the status quo reset. Why are you watching Spider-Man this week and he's got 6 arms? Well, you missed out on the last 2 weeks. It's not. I get it. At the end of the day, it's to make you watch more TV, but it's also to keep you paying attention to something, which is good for you. So that's kind of why I go on about some of this stuff. Because it should have side effects that are positive. We kind of take all that crap out to, I don't know, have clips on social media or make a tweet or just have hollow entertainment. I don't know. But that's how I see it.
Entertainment is going hollow, and it's not with regards to it's not 100% intentional. It's usually a byproduct of the fact that we haven't nurtured our youth in a couple of decades at the very minimum.
Yeah. I think now's the time you just got to pull off that Band-Aid and say, fuck it, teach people. They're just going to have to learn some stuff, and we're going to have to pick this up quickly. But
I mean, there's a reason why all of these television shows that were, long running on network, but kind of like in the bottom of the barrel of ratings, but just enough not to be canceled, are being explored by the younger generation. In fact, there's a whole section of YouTube that's actually exploded over the last 7 months that is all about watching movies between 1970 and 1999, because there's the current stuff that is just not doing it for them.
Having lived through a good chunk of that window of, half that window.
Decade at least, yeah.
Yeah, just about 11 of those years. I can attest that those movies are magical. There's a lot of great stuff, and it's not just nostalgia for kids. Like, go watch The French Connection. That movie kicks ass.
Yeah.
People aren't going to know about it today, but we get hyped for the new... What do they... They don't make Transformers anymore. What's the most
Transformers
mindless...
1. I mean, that's...
Oh, yeah, that did come out. Sorry. Like most people, I didn't go see that movie.
It's like
But
they
I
don't
heard it
really
was
do
pretty
much
good.
with G.I. Joe, and they don't do much with like Mask or any of the other fun 80s and early 90s cartoons. Like, where's the new Samurai Pizza Cats feature film?
I'd watch that. Darian 217, here's your button request right here.
Who's that Pokemon? It's
Uncle Ben.
Thank you to Rod Thunderheart, who says, "Hail, script. We'll get back in your place on Friday."
Oh, cool. Hey, no worries, man. Take your time. I'm super proud that things have been picking up for you where you are, because it's been tough times all around. And also to further embolden good old Rod Thunderheart, for those of you that have read his first book, he is working on another follow-up to it, and it's looking pretty good. So, keep your ears open for when that hits shelves.
I know. I'm going to
Congrats
check
to
it out.
him.
Rod Thunderheart doing what we all want to do, creating. Now, Overkill 161, says Gordita with the win. Gordita fiction and Gordita tease. instead of striptease. Okay. The best Paul Verhoeven film. Wait, no, that's Showgirls. That'd be Gordita Girls. That'd be a different story. Anyway, Overkill 161, thank you very much. If I do hit up Emerald City Comic Con, I will let people know. But thank you. Now I want to watch Gordita Fiction. Is that a tasty Gordita? Do you have anything to wash it down with? A big kahuna Gordita. That's just, I don't know why that's not even a thing anymore. Darian217 says, Mortal Kombat Van Damme Edition. I miss seeing it. Yes, folks, we're getting ready to talk about this on the screen right now, since we don't seem to make anything new and we're just rehashing old ideas. But we do have some old buttons like this one. We have those for you. Darian217, thank you very much. John Thomas says, script, rate Starship Trooper, Stranger in a Strange Land, and CZT Who Walked Through Walls. Heinlein was brilliant and impossible to pigeonhole.
All right, so that's the cat who walks through walls.
Oh, okay.
Oh, gosh. Okay, that's going to be tricky because, all right, probably Stranger in a Strange Land, because that's about a human that was raised by Martians coming back to Earth, and it's actually quite a beautiful tragedy. So I'd probably go Stranger in a Strange Land, Starship Troopers, and the Cats Who Walk Through Walls. It's tricky, but that's just me off the top because I haven't read the Cats Who Walk Through Walls in a good 20 years. But Starship Troopers was recent. I read that during the pandemic, and Stranger in a Strange Land I reread again prior to the pandemic. But I'd have to go, Stranger, Starship Troopers, Cats Who Walk Through Walls. Because Heinlein was brilliant. He always knew how to address different subjects through the sci-fi lens.
I believe the Moon is a Cruel Mistress or whatever. Is that one of them? That's the one that I think I have in my Audible, and I never went back to.
You mean the Moon is a Harsh Mistress? Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's what it is.
That's a good one. Yeah.
I need to go back and give it another shot. I bought it when I was going on a trip, and I'm sitting there in the back of an Uber listening to it. I'm like, I am not hooked on this story, but I'm going to try to make myself listen to it.
It's kind of a parallel between the UK and the American colonies. They decide to. I mean, it's not 100% like that, but it definitely draws on that because it's we're on the moon. We don't need to be ruled by Earth. I mean, I'm really oversimplifying it, but yeah.
Well, John Thomas, thank you very much for all of that. And I'm going to have to check out Strangers in a Strange Land because I want to now read that story. It sounds pretty cool. I find myself being more interested in the classics, and I don't want to sound like I'm going to be all pretentious or bougie, as the people would say. But I do find myself enjoying some of this higher end stuff because, well, it's considered classic for a reason. And I think I'm at the point in my creative consumption where I'm not saying I get everything because I'm this genius person, but I get the appeal of everything. I understand why the things that hit. I finally see a lot of that stuff. And it's fun because then I'm going back and reading these classics and going, man, I'm late to the party, but I'm loving it. So maybe some of these late will be pretty good. So let's see. I'm reading the chat right now. Venture Brothers is a great show. I agree.
Oh, God,
it's Wombat.
Fantastic.
I've been watching Johnny Quest at night. That's one of my favorite cartoons of all time.
You're talking about the first one on the Hanna-Barbera from the 60s with Tim Matheson? Yeah.
I actually used to watch that.
Dude, isn't it just a good cartoon?
It was fun, man.
Nice
and I was a little
series.
kid. And it was just, it was good, man. I was honestly kind of shocked because that was an era where if I was watching TV, it was one of the superhero shows, or it was like one of the Saturday morning Sonic shows. But that one wound up squeaking in there.
I love any kind of adventure series. I've always loved the globe hopping cartoons. Inspector Gadget was a favorite early on. So was James Bond Jr. But that's why I like a lot of these things like Lupin the Third, and people will request or recommend certain anime. And by the way, folks, I tried Psycho Pass over the weekend. It was pretty good. But I watch these shows because I just love that globe hopping. I'm never in the same place. You know, this isn't the town of Bedrock every week or Spacely's Sprockets every episode. No, it's, oh, this week Johnny Quest is in the Amazon. Now he's in Mexico. Now he's in the Antarctic. It's just fun. That was exciting. But I've always wondered, what is that for today's generation? Because, you know, 50, 60 years ago, the world seemed like such a big place. And a lot of these shows always have these tropes, like even Love Boat. We're going to do something in Asia. We're going to do something in this part of the globe, something in that part of the globe. Now at the internet, everything just feels small, and global exploration just isn't really, it doesn't seem exciting anymore. What is like today's equivalent? Because is that why we talk about multi-dimensions and hypothetical crap? Because we've kind of seen everything there is to see here?
To a degree. I mean, what we have with the invention of the internet and, of course, the improvements in travel is, our world has gotten a lot smaller. And so what the types of stories that you are attracted to and that I also really like and appreciate are the fish out of water stories. Like Johnny Quest is going to a country he's never been to before. He's a fish out of water. He's got to figure out the culture, and he's got to navigate that in addition to whatever problem is being faced with him and his family at the same time. Because there's so much access to information, we also have this illusion of an understanding of all other cultures throughout the rest of the world, where truth be told is that while there are a lot of similarities, the differences are prominent, and they can actually throw you for a loop, especially in, like, westernized nations. So that's the other part too, is like there's so much you can experience in a very safe and controlled environment in your home or through your phone that just kind of kills the mystery of being able to go out and do it for yourself. And that's kind of like one of the weirdest things to see. It's also a habit that is a bit more dominant on the American side of things, and not so much in like the general terms, because like Americans by and large, maybe 12 to 15% of them actually travel outside the country every once in a while throughout their entire lives. Where if you go to places like, well, the rest of the world really, and primarily Europe, it's usually the vast majority of them travel pretty regularly, often, to see other countries, other cultures, other societies. And the majority of the travel that does come from the United States is on the coasts, like, because they're a bit more affluent, so they have a lot more money and discretionary stuff. But one thing is that there's two different types of American tourists. There's the coastal tourists, which are the people that kind of ruin other people's vacations. And then there's the people that are not from the coastal states that kind of just blend in with all the others. And, if they ask a question and then the answer is no, they're like, oh, okay, well, thanks so much. And they move on. Whereas you get someone from like New York who's at a bar and he demands a certain type of service that they don't offer. Their excuse is, I'm an American. And that just wards off people in Spain, the Canary Islands, Italy, or what have you, because it's like, well, and like there's no humility there. And when you don't have a culture that encourages traveling outside of their own country to experience the world, like an Indiana Jones, like a Johnny Quest, like an Inspector Gadget, or anything of that nature, it ends up becoming a back burner idea, as opposed to one of like emboldening curiosity. And I think that's also why people really like Star Trek at the same time, is because it's like, oh, not only are we seeing another culture, we're seeing it as like a completely different species, and we can actually have fun with how strange their habits and their practices are, and we can use that as a mirror to ourselves. And that's something that nobody really wants to explore. At least the people with a lot of money that could afford to do it, they just don't want to explore that stuff anymore, which is tragic.
I'm glad you brought up the Star Trek thing too, because I know some of the appeal of making it was it was an expensive show, but using some of the same sets over and over again. But the always having a different adventure of the week was exciting. And I wish we'd get that to bring it to tie it back to what we were talking about a minute ago with that Spider-Man show. Is I wish we had more, just like with the Mandalorian. I thought that show should have been Adventure of the Week every week, not this thread of how we're going to tie in the Darksaber and this and Bo-Katan and the mines of Mandalore and all this stuff. Like, of course, you want some of that in there. You don't want just like a basic whatever show. But I was kind of hoping for like Hercules: The Legendary Journeys in Space. Mandalorian and Grogu roll up to a new star system. There's a new problem. They call in so and so. Maybe Cara Dune shows up. Rinse and repeat until it gets old, or bring him in to do more crazy shit like with Bill Burr. But
Sure.
everything just wants to be like this big interconnected. Oh, you gotta binge 5 seasons to get through one little story arc.
And that's a detriment right now to a lot of storytelling, because you see it right now with the current state of the MCU as well, where like they're trying to build towards this next event that nobody really cares about, because all the characters that most people did care about are generally gone. But they're so addicted and adamant about this vision of this, interconnected universe and this expanding universe as well, that they lose sight. It's missing the forest for the trees, right? They lose sight of the importance of the story you're telling right here, right now, first. You can get people excited for all that other stuff, but don't focus on that at the expense of telling a good story right here, right now, in the moment. That's important. And it's especially like that is a pitfall you can easily fall into when you're talking about building out an expanding world. With all these different characters and stories and things like that, and mini IPs, like comic books. Comic books have been there for a very long time. We're trying that exact thing over at the Rippaverse, and it's something that we have to be incredibly mindful of, because you want people who are there for, there are a lot of people who are comic book fans that love the idea of the interconnected, expanding universe. Like, they're about that. They love that this is a living, breathing world. It's lived in. It has all these different characters, and they kind of exist in the same place. Some of them might interact. Some of them might not, and that's okay. But it's a living, breathing world. But on the flip side of that, you still want to create just singular stories that are just good on their own.
Yep.
See, because what you're describing, at least what's happening over at Marvel, is they're putting the vertical integration of the brand ahead of the stories that would be building that integration naturally.
Yeah, in an organic manner.
Like, the thing is, WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier should have been contained stories that were valid on their own, and then their pairing movies of, say, Multiverse of Madness and now Brave New World, those should just be their own stories that, for the people that did watch it, they get just a tiny little bit extra. Not much, just a tiny little bit extra to appreciate it. But it seems that the way that Disney has kind of handled this section of the franchise is it's all about trying to upsell the customer to the next product. And it without considering what the value of that product is. And basically saying it's a Marvel brand. You should go see it because you have to. And they're trying to also generate artificial FOMO as well. It's like, you're not going to understand this movie unless you watch that show. It's like, no, you don't do that with stories, because each story is its own individual adventure. And the ability to craft that so that it can be a puzzle piece in a larger story comes as a byproduct of really good writing and understanding what each of those stories individually are and where you can string a nice little thread of a larger story through without it deterring the momentum of the core story you're trying to tell. It is not easy to do. There's not a whole lot of writers that can do that, which is why, by and large, most of the franchises that we've had since the start of the 20th century towards the end were in a far more episodic form. It was just a lot easier to manage that way. And, one of the better companion pieces to an episode of television and a feature film, to swing it back around to how Jeff started this topic, is Star Trek. You have the original series with Space Seed. Follow that up with The Wrath of Khan, a feature film. You can watch The Wrath of Khan without seeing Space Seed, but if you see Space Seed, you appreciate The Wrath of Khan a lot more. But there's no obligation. And that's the brilliance of it.
Yeah, consuming the other things should enhance, it should augment the experience of this thing rather than be requisite to you enjoying this thing.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk in a few minutes about the Captain America momentum, we'll be bringing that back up. I know. Well, all of a sudden it seems like they're making up some momentum for this movie. But let's talk about what's on screen real quick. There's a new Mortal Kombat, and I know it's 2025, and Mortal Kombat is a 32-year-old, 3-year-old, 34-year-old game, I guess, at this point. What, 91 is when it came out?
It's been around for a minute.
Most of my life. But we're still making Mortal Kombat stuff because we can never really move away from the past. So I like Mortal Kombat. I've kind of given up on it because they rebooted it and I'm not into it as much. But the classic stuff still sticks around with me and I absolutely love it. The last Mortal Kombat movie was absolute dog shit in my opinion. It wasn't good at all.
I never saw it.
Really, a lot of those early COVID Warner Brothers releases on HBO Max, when it was called that, those movies all sucked. Wonder Woman, this... I didn't like Justice League Snyder Cut. These movies were all pretty garbage, but Mortal Kombat was top of the list for garbage adaptations. It was so dumb. People thought it was great because it had some gory violence. And I love a good gory kill, but a story or, I don't know, something cool has to follow or precede that gory moment. And Mortal Kombat was not really it for me. Plus, we followed a brand new character that nobody liked. We should have just followed Liu Kang. And the characters like Kano that we did really like got smaller screen time and were eventually killed off. So here we are with this poster, Uncaged Fury. Carl Urban plays Johnny Cage in the new Mortal Kombat movie. What do you guys think of this casting, since we're keeping it geek culture related and Carl Urban's in Star Trek?
I mean... I'm not saying it couldn't be decent, but I just don't care personally. Like there's campy fun to be had with that original film, but beyond that, I've never been a gigantic Mortal Kombat fan. Probably because I suck at the games. That probably doesn't help. I'm really bad at them, and some of the character designs are cool. I don't know. I don't really care. I've played a handful of the games. I've watched the first 2 movies. I haven't seen the most recent one. And from everything that you guys and other people I know and trust have told me, I am missing out on absolutely nothing.
You're right.
Well, it's funny that Carl Urban is only 12 years younger than Jean-Claude Van Damme. So you have a 52-year-old action movie star, which seems like it's kind of a dig against current Hollywood of the fact that a lot of the action stars and the main talent that we actually go to see are over the age of 40.
Right. Couldn't Glenn Powell have been a decent Johnny Storm? Doesn't he play a good prick?
Johnny Storm?
I mean, not Johnny Storm.
Johnny Cage.
Johnny Cage, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
The stupid Fantastic Four trailer last week.
You weren't feeling it hype, bro? You weren't loving the fact that it got 200 and something? Who gives a shit? Like, seriously.
Pedro Pascal's just that's a hard sell, man. Everything else looked kind of all right, but
look kind of like potential. It had potential.
I can see potential there, but then you see Pedro Pascal looking like Pedro Pascal and literally everything else that he's in, and I'm like, you're not even trying to look like Reed Richards. It's like you woke up in your apartment and decided, yep, I guess I'll go on set and I'm not going to change anything.
Yeah, he Ben Affleck'd it.
Yeah, he's still, dude, the way his beard grows, he looks frickin' homeless. It's bothersome.
I mean,
Reed Richards with a beard can work. It worked in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness when we actually had a good casting for Reed Richards and John Krasinski. But unfortunately, that's not how the cards went.
I mean, Reed Richards has a beard in the Galactus trilogy, so they've drawn him with a beard for drama since the beginning, but that dude just doesn't look the part. That'd be like me playing Napoleon.
Yeah.
I'm too tall, and I just don't look the part.
You definitely don't look French.
No, not at all.
I mean, listen, I know a lot of people have a fan boner. We're not saying that you do, Andrew, of course, but a lot of people have a fan boner for John Krasinski as Reed Richards. But I think Krasinski's range is better suited to something like Doctor Doom. He also has the elongated face that Doctor Doom kind of has. Reed Richards needs to look like the professor from Gilligan's Island. because that is the type of brilliant and dorkiness of that era. Like Krasinski is more current day nerd pretending to be cool, where in the 50s and 60s and 70s, if you were a successful scientist and millionaire, you also had an air of handsomeness and allure to you that women actually admired. Like there is not many single genius men that worked at NASA back in the 60s during the rocket launch, during the space program. And the same thing with regards to their test pilots. They all were like, you think that they're like jarheads or something, like, just wing jockeys, but they're actually very intelligent men who happen to also be test pilots. That is the type of archetype that Reed Richards was emulated in the comic books. And that's why I'm the type of guy who's like, oh yeah, let's try an Anson Mount type, because he's got the looks, he's got the voice, he knows how to hold himself well and confidently. And you can also buy in that a woman 15 years his junior would be head over heels for him. And again, he's also in his mid 40s, so it's not illegal. So like you got to take that into account, because I think people just like John Krasinski because they associate Jim Halpert with him. And for the very few, and sadly it's not a lot, but for the very few that watch the Jack Ryan series on Amazon, they like the technicality that he was able to exude there as well. But the sad truth is that John Krasinski does have very limited acting range. And a lot of people cannot disassociate Jim Halpert from him. And that's why sadly, because I enjoyed the Jack Ryan show on Amazon for the first season. I think that's why. I
haven't seen it.
Exactly. Like, yeah, you haven't seen it. And I don't find many people that have.
I haven't seen it. I saw the Tom Cruise movies, but I haven't seen, or no.
Tom Cruise did do a Jack
Reacher.
This is Jack Reacher.
Jack Reacher.
Yeah, he did Jack Reacher.
You're talking about Harrison Ford and Alec Baldwin did the Jack Ryan features.
Yeah.
Young Harrison Ford.
I'm getting them all
could have made a
confused
good
because they're all
Reed
kind of the same
Richards,
type
too.
of story.
Oddly enough. Like, yeah.
Do you think it's going to beat Superman?
No.
Nor do I.
Jurassic World's going to beat Superman.
Do you really think so?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't think that trailer looked like anything.
The trailer wasn't so huge, but it's got a decent cast, an interesting hook, and the track record with those Jurassic World and Jurassic Park movies. I mean, you'll never top the very first one, but they have been pretty much licensed to print money. And on the international market, kids and China and all those countries in that region, they love watching the dinosaurs. When you take a look at something like the Godzilla and Kong films, they do really well also. So I think that's going to be a big portion of that money. I would love it if Superman could overcome it, but it's a big ask to have because, again, the rest of the world doesn't realize that Warner Brothers has been under new management when it comes to their superhero stuff once The Flash ended.
Yeah.
Well, actually, sorry, once Aquaman 2 ended, that's more accurate. The Flash was the last one to actually make a negative impact wave, even though Aquaman 2 was not that great. It was the better of that old guard. I don't think
low bar, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly, low bar. I don't think the rest of the audience worldwide is going to realize that this is a brand new thing, or at least comprehend that's a brand new thing unless it has one heck of a great opening weekend and that word of mouth just takes over and causes people to go see it again and again. And yes, Monkey Jesus, Scarlett Johansson. I have to commend every fashion and costumer in the world for always being able to get her in the right bra and the right shirt, because she has been naked a number of times where she has got a great body, but that silhouette that she has when she's in those costumes is way better than the exposed version. But I appreciate both.
I'm looking forward to the movie, but Jurassic is one of my 3 favorite movie franchises. So it's, unless it's like Jurassic Park 3, and even then I'll probably still have fun with it the first time.
It's rumors it's got a Rancor in Jurassic World. So
well, it's got a some sort of a mutant hybrid
dinosaur that can make fists.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Just make it not dumb, please, and I'll suspend my disbelief as long as the rest of the dinosaurs are fun. That's what I'm there for.
Yeah, one of the failings of the trailer is that they didn't coherently establish which island it is they're going to, because you have to remember in the Lost World, that was technically the first island, and this island we saw in
Yeah, that was
Jurassic Park
Isla
was the
Sorna,
second.
which was the factory floor, Site
Yeah.
B. Then you had Nublar, which is where the actual park itself was. Is I understand? I think this is actually supposed to be an entirely new island.
See, I thought that too, and then I watched it again. It's like, well, we have to go back to the original island, and I'm like,
Okay,
well,
so
which
then they're
one's
going
the
back to
original?
Nublar.
Yeah, like, because how many islands did this guy have?
I mean, Hammond had that money.
Yeah. All
My
from his flea circus. Yeah.
my main complaint with the trailer is actually something kind of benign. Because I don't mind nostalgia when it's done well and it, pulls on those heartstrings and you're like, oh, you get the feels. And them like showing the shot of the main lobby entrance with the skeleton, the banner, and all of that. And I'm like, why would you show that in the trailer? Like, save that for the film when people can like build up to that emotionally via watching the film. Why would you blow that in the trailer? You're
Because
so
you spent
dumb.
$8 million on a Super Bowl ad.
I mean, yeah, but they did this in the trailer that was even before the Super Bowl.
Honestly, I didn't know. I just only saw the Super Bowl ad.
And I was like, really? Why? Like, I'm sure I'll still enjoy it, but like, what the hell? Why didn't you just save that? And that's a big problem with trailers in general these days. They kind of like blow their wad all at once.
Yeah,
I think Warner Brothers made a huge mistake not putting a full Superman trailer at the Super Bowl.
yeah, because he's a relic of the past. I know we've said it in the past. Hate to be redundant, but I don't think there are an infinite amount of resets for Superman. Batman has the longitude or the latitude that you can do anything with him forever. But Superman, I could see a world where if this flops, Superman is never going to be relegated to like the B list, but he's just there. He supports other people in their movies. That'd be really bizarre for me, but I think that might be what happens.
He'd be the Hulk in the MCU.
You know what though? That might actually not be too bad.
Yeah.
Because if you had Superman team up with a lot of these people, it'd be pretty cool, and then it might make people hungry for Superman. You know what though? People aren't hungry for Mortal Kombat. I can't even finish a sentence, a segment on it.
Well, what's funny is that if Warner Brothers were to make Superman as a supporting character in other films, that would circumvent a lot of the rights issues that the Schuster and Siegel family have with the film, because they only get paid for film rights where Superman is the main character, and it's a Superman titled movie or a derivative of Superman, such as Man of Steel, Man of Tomorrow, and Superman, or any type of combination thereof. So if you were to do something like a Justice League, well, you don't have to actually pay the major rights to the original creators under the terms of their contract. They still get like a royalty, which is actually pretty lucrative in and of itself. But you also don't have to worry about owning about the film rights payout that comes with that. So if you were to do, say, a number of Batman films or Green Lantern films or Wonder Woman films, and you had Superman show up, well, you don't have to worry about paying up the film right portion of your agreement with the creators' estates. You just have to do the standard royalties, which anyone that's a comic book creator, artist, what have you, would get regardless, because it's always factored into the budgets of these projects, and that makes things a lot easier on the legal side. But I think that if Superman were to flop, that character would probably be regulated to streaming series or television miniseries that would be popping up from time to time, because Warner Brothers is the current regime of Warner Brothers is smart enough to know that Superman is a moneymaker if they can find the right market for it. And they're betting everything on the theatrical market, which means that they're looking at a 10-year investment. And they got to hope and pray that this first movie takes off, and that they can keep building on top of that for that decade, because their entire goal is basically to catch up and then overpass Marvel, which I'm worried about, because they're nearing 40 films in their entire franchise over a course of, it's going to be 20 years pretty soon. In about 3 years, it'll be 20 years of Marvel.
Oh my God.
I know.
That hurts me actually deeply.
And And that's something that makes me concerned, because how can you maintain a quality control if you're pumping out anywhere from 3 to 5 movies a year? And now Warner Brothers so far said they're not putting out anything, at least under James Gunn, they're not putting out anything until the script is 100% ready. And they're 100% confident with it. And they don't have to go back for reshoots. And oddly enough, they haven't. They've done pickup shots, which is a very different thing. A reshoot is basically redoing a scene or sequence, and a pickup shot is adding new footage to marry to the existing footage.
We need one of those. Wait, hold on a second. I have one of those buttons. It's right here.
Beautiful.
There you go, folks. When you learn something new from Script Doctor, I'm going to start pressing that. I still think the Thunderbolts is a lost cause.
Yeah.
That movie looks
Oh,
like a
yeah.
dumpster fire. But I have been watching action movies as I've been riding my bike, and I'm on Captain America Winter Soldier because I guess I have to get ready for this fourth one. Yes, folks, we'll be reviewing it for the podcast this week. Yay. But I just miss that era, and we'll never get it back, and I miss being excited for these movies. But, well, at least we had them while we had them. So, I don't think there's much that we want to say about Mortal Kombat, so I'll change that title card image. Let's talk about...
I guess the only
Go ahead.
positive for Mortal Kombat 2 is that's not written by the same guy that wrote the Mortal Kombat 2021.
I guess that's
My
positive.
nemesis of the arts, Dave Callahan,
Mm.
who ruined Shang-Chi, ruined Wonder Woman 84, ruined...
Didn't he
Mortal
do
Kombat.
like a bunch of those at once, too? Like, he took on a bunch of these writing gigs at once?
Yeah,
Or did
because
him in a short period of time?
a screenplay he won at the Nickel Fellowship, which he shouldn't have won. He technically should have been disqualified because he was making money as a screenwriter. Actually, he made more money than the threshold requirement of the screenwriter, which is why I can't do the Nickel Fellowship either. But it was America the movie, which Netflix purchased and made as an animation, and I have recommended it for purely scientific research reasons to people on this channel out there listening as well, because it's a horrible movie that depicts George Washington and Abe Lincoln as best friends, and Sam Adams, I think, turns into a robot. So it's obscenely ridiculous for low-hanging fruit. Like, if you were like a 16-year-old that got high a lot, you would enjoy this. But
I was about to say, what cocktail of narcotics was the writer on when they came up
I'd
with
say
this?
like a quarter gram of mushrooms and a couple of joints would do the hit. Acid might be too much.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I want to see it.
No, I mean,
I know.
you and the guys should actually do a commentary on it, because your first watch commentary would probably go viral.
All right, remind me off air.
Okay.
Our friend John Thomas, thank you for your super chat. He says, would anyone else watch a McConaughey movie and the NFL being a conspiracy by Big Food? Go full Tropic Thunder with it. Embrace the absurdity. Oh, you're talking about the Uber Eats ad. Yeah, absolutely. Matthew McConaughey has got great comedic chops. I would watch him in any kind of straight comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Sign me up for that movie tomorrow. I think that's actually a brilliant idea, John. Did you guys
Uber
see
Eats
this commercial?
versus Skip the Dishes, John Hamm and Matthew McConaughey at odds. Who can out-endorse each other?
Ooh, I like it. John Hamm, I think he was drunk during the Super Bowl, by the way. His introduction for the Chiefs was a little rough.
Yep.
But then again, he was happy that his team was in the Super Bowl, but man, they did not win. They did not play well at all.
No. Well, I mean, it's bad luck for him, because John Hamm just recently played a character who died of a heart attack on Landman. So,
Oh, shit.
he's probably thinking, man, I had a series and now I don't. So,
Gosh.
well, good thing Kansas is in the Super Bowl. Ah, shucks.
It's like, sorry, dude. You just
not your
winning
year.
today. No. You did that Fletch remake, and all else has been, pretty
Downhill.
down from hill.
I like that
Or
Fletch
downhill.
remake, or that Fletch follow-up.
I have to check it out still. I heard a lot of good stuff about it, but I was a little Precious, because Fletch is one of my all-time favorite movies. Not just top, whatever. Fletch is up there. I really love that one.
The books are pretty good too.
Yeah, I want to get into them. I have a few of the Gregory McDonald books, but I can't say I've read a lot of them. But I'll give John Hamm a shot. But to me, the Fletch theme song is probably going to be not in it, and I need the synthesizer theme because it's awesome.
I don't think they really get the rights to it.
Yeah. Oh, well, John, thank you. I would watch that movie in a heartbeat, though. Because he survives Tropic Thunder. Maybe that could be like his next project. He tries to go deep into that. I mean, the joke about that commercial, though, is it's just a big commercial. Like, that's what the NFL is in general. It's just a big licensing machine. And yeah, they like on wrestling, adjacent subject, they definitely run food ads at certain times to get you to want to eat Taco Bell late at night.
Oh, yeah.
When I was in college, my friend and I counted. It was like 14 Taco Bell ads over the course of a Monday Night Raw. We were blown away. So,
and then you had Taco Bell.
We probably did because I lived across the street from one in college. Like the first 2 years, I lived across the street from a Jimmy John's and a Domino's, and then the next 2 years, I lived across the street from that one. So
I've got both a
5
Domino's and a In-N-Out in practically walking distance from me.
Oh, rub it in.
Yeah, I mean, Liz, I've got a Fresh Slice Pizza, which it's a Canadian brand.
Okay.
Up here, they're actually really good. You can get like a 13-inch pizza with all the toppings for $13.
What?
Yeah. I wish they were sponsoring me in this show because that's pretty sweet.
I want that pizza.
What the hell?
I know, right?
Pizza's freaking expensive down here now.
Everything's
That's a good deal.
down
All
here.
the other chains are super expensive, but this one, they the reason I know a little bit about them is because I got a job offer from them earlier this year, but they didn't pay enough for what I wanted. And it was in administration. And I looked at their model. I'm like, oh my God, everything is all local. So that's why the prices are so low.
Right, they don't have to pay for major transport and storage fees.
Right. And the other part too is they also use some of the McDonald's stuff, which is a lot of the all the ingredients come from the same place, but instead
from what is it, Golden something Foods,
something like that.
Right? Yeah.
This one they have their
Starbucks
own,
gets theirs from the same
but
place.
they don't make it at the same place. It's just they ship the raw ingredients to each location that has all the facilities to do all the baking and making the dough. And I'm like, oh, this is how you keep everything down. You buy en masse over at and you ship to your one local location, and then you have your distribution network all set out either to make things very affordable. So everything is fresh. I'm like, oh, good. And then you see their prices and you're like, holy crap, this is really competitive compared to all the other ones like your Domino's or Pizza Huts or what have you. You're like the Little Caesars. You're like, oh man, why are they so expensive? Now they got a different model. But yeah. But Domino's does have specials sometimes. It's like $10 for like a medium after like 8 p.m. or something.
Once a month, the local one that I go to does deals where I can I think I end up spending like 30, maybe $35 after tax, and I get 2 large pizzas, usually like a sandwich that's about yay long, nothing crazy, but you know, it's at least they at least fill it, right? It's not just like a few strips of bacon, maybe a little chicken and some cheese, and then 2 large slices
like ground
of bread.
beef crumble. That's not really
no, they actually fill the thing, which I'm honestly shocked. I wouldn't expect them to, and then I'll get like a thing of wings, and that'll be like meals for me for like most of the week, if not like the whole week.
Yep.
Since I work a sedentary job, I try to eat a little less, but I'll eat more times throughout the day. And yeah, it's actually it works out for me.
Oh, dude, it's tough. Like even when I'm on my standing desk, it's like I still have to watch calorie intake, and it's not easy because my girlfriend is taking up baking and I'm the taste tester.
You are screwed, sir.
Oh,
what I like to do is I'll take my lunch hour. I'll go down to the 24-hour fitness center in my apartment complex, and I'll get in a quick like half-hour workout, dash back upstairs, take a quick shower, reheat food from the night before, sit back down at my desk and get back to work. Right. So I at least get some movement in there.
Well, let's get some movement into our next subject because we only have a couple
Nice
days until
segue.
Captain America. I am world class after all, my friend. This jacket says so. I got another one, by the way. I haven't cracked it out yet, but it's a red one. So I have red, blue,
Ooh.
gray, blue, gray, gray. Yeah, let's we'll
Okay,
talk about that
okay.
another time, folks. But we have a couple of days until Captain America comes out. I know a lot of people are like, I don't care. That's fine, folks, but I wanted to talk about something that I'm seeing, and I think it's basically a failed attempt to trick people into going to see this movie. And so I've been seeing a lot of people talking about the grosses for the weekend. I'm seeing it's a 180 movie budget, but they're saying it's going to make 195, or maybe the numbers are reversed, excuse me. But they're acting like this movie is going to like make its profit back in a weekend. It's make its budget back in a weekend.
No.
And we're not talking about the reshoots, and we're not talking about the extremely expensive movie this thing is. But I think they're trying to play damage control and like, oh fuck, yeah, this is a hit. This is a hit already. To like try to condition people to go because people won't see it if they think it's going to be a flop. They just want to like let it flop.
Yeah,
I
aren't they
think
like
this is
trying
their
to
last
claim? Aren't some trades trying to claim that it's like tracking for like 95 million opening
Yeah, some
weekend or
big
something?
Something like
amount.
that, yeah.
And it's like, no, it's not.
It would be a miracle
it's
if it did
not.
do 95. I mean, right now the accounting that Disney is doing right now is nothing short of brilliant because it's a single movie that has two LLCs to it. First one being New World Order, which hasn't been the title for the movie for a while, but all
Like a
of
year.
their expenditures outside of the principal budget is shifted over to that New World Order LLC, which then goes as a write-off against profits for future productions. So legally on paper, Disney is able to report and oddly enough accurately though that they've invested around $180 million. Now, fun fact is that it's not their own money. These are the pre-sale dollars that they've invested. The stuff that they have spent and written off, that has come from other sources. I'm not sure where. Maybe it was part of USAID. We'll find out in a few weeks as that starts to get further dismantled. But they're able to do that, and they're able to do that because if they didn't change the LLC, if they didn't write off that debt, they would have to then justify to the board of directors, their stockholders, why they spent so much money on a single LLC that could never earn a possible return after ticket sales. And the ticket sales that are collected from the theaters, the reason they keep 50% is because that 50% is paying off the investment that they already gave to Disney to make the movie with which they're showing. So that is why you want those big opening weekend numbers as early as possible, because once you pay off that debt that the theaters had given you in the form of a pre-sale, the theaters, that 50% that the theaters retain is now all money, all profit for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then you combine that with your popcorn buckets and then your other confectionaries, and that makes it a very lucrative deal for the theaters. The problem being is that some of Disney's films, when they are going into the theaters, their threshold for reaching that profit is taking longer than expected because some of the expense has been too high, or it's not going to happen because Disney has been pulling them out of theaters and they're not getting extended runs and they're going straight to streaming. And that's causing an issue as well.
And going straight to their own platform, so that means they're not even profiting off of it there.
Right.
They're not even licensing it
They're
out.
hoping to profit off it by way of subscriber increase. And then
Which we've
retention,
seen is not happening.
Which exactly doesn't happen. Audiences are quite savvy when they're like, oh, I can go on to Disney Plus for 1 month, watch a couple of movies and the shows I want, and then cancel and not come back in for another year. And you save yourself, 11 months on your cable bill,
Exactly.
so to speak, or what would be your cable bill. However, they do have that crossover, I think, now with one of the cable service providers where you get free Disney Plus with your cable package and you can access it through your cable. But one of the things that, while streaming is taking off, one of the big hangups I think is going to hurt streaming is their investment into sports, because some of my buddies have remarked on this. Bill Maher made a big deal of it over on his show last week. You can't channel flip on streaming when you're watching live sports. Heck, you can't channel flip for anything, which is actually, a huge American sport in of itself is channel surfing, or at least was.
Yeah.
And that's why That's why so many people say, oh, I get lost on Netflix just scrolling through all the shows, because that's essentially the same thing as channel surfing, except you're not actually getting a snippet of what that show is like you would on traditional broadcast.
That is true.
But what happens when you're watching a show and for some reason it's starting to lose interest to you and you want to switch to something else? Well, you don't get to switch instantly like you could with a channel, with the channel remote. You then have to go back to your main menu, and then you have to go through all your sorting systems to find the other thing that you want to watch. And you cannot do an instant recall yet. I'm pretty sure someone in the streaming world is trying to figure out a way to do this, but you cannot do a recall to go back to the other show as instantly as you could on the traditional remote for some of the streaming platforms. I think Tubi might have the easiest access for that because of its desktop computer functionalities, because you can like click on things and then you can just go back and it'll pick up right where you left off on the previous tab. So that's with like the mouse options, but with the other streamings, it's a bit more of a navigational nightmare. And, you know, to bring it back down to Brave New World, well, what's going to happen if Brave New World has a 90% drop off after its first weekend? Well, it's obviously, basically, you're going to find out that the theaters are going to be really upset because they're going to learn that, oh, in 4.5 weeks, Brave New World is going to be on Disney Plus streaming. And then all that merchandise, all that investment that the theaters did for cross promotion in accordance with Disney is going to be out the window. That China cardboard cutout of Red Hulk fighting the silhouette of Captain Falcon, that's not going to have a shelf life as long as they intended it to be, which is usually 6 to 10 weeks, because that's how you equate the cost. And the other part too is, I don't know, maybe I can find it on my Twitter. I'll see if I can. But there are some people that are actually like standing in the silhouette cutout to pretend to be, you know, Captain Falcon fighting Harrison Ford, Red Hulk. But that's one of the smarter things Disney has done when trying to acquiesce to China's advertising laws of, you know, no people that are not white on their advertisement.
It's such a weird world we live in.
Yeah.
I got to do business with with them. I guess you got to play by their rules. I
we don't
posted that
have
on
to
Twitter
do
the other day.
business with them. Like, there's been a number of movies that have succeeded and profited quite well without China.
Oh yeah, I kind of find it funny that Captain America is the one they, you know, are pushing there. But
They like Captain
irony
America to be
aside.
white.
Yeah, well, I want Captain America to be white. Sorry, Sam, you're just not Captain America. Falcon forever, big fan, but
They did him so well in that movie.
Yep.
It was a
dude, like I
great
said-
introduction to him.
Yeah, like I said, I'm watching Winter Soldier right now, and I love the character of Sam Wilson. Loved watching those movies all those years ago, going, man, these are good. All these are good. Getting so excited for what was to come. Now it's, well, maybe we'll see a cool one. This one will probably suck. It just, I don't know. It's predictable at this point. But I guess our glory days are behind us. For the MCU, that is. Not here. Never given up on that. But I don't know, man. I feel like they're really trying to push this narrative of it's going to be this big hit, and they're trying to get people hyped at the last minute. Like, oh, the Super Bowl's over. There's nothing to get excited for. You got Captain America. But people got Valentine's Day and plans and other things to do. So,
Yeah, like I don't know, walk my hamster that died when I was 11. That'd be a better use of my time.
if the thing didn't decompose at this point, that's the most impressive part of your whole story.
It's going to be my headcanon.
Oh, okay. So do you live in a freezer, or did you vacuum seal it? Never mind. Taxidermy, that's the correct answer.
There it is.
Yeah,
And nobody
I
cares
was a
about this
little
movie.
wacky. No. But have you seen the popcorn bucket, the giant Harrison Ford one?
No.
It looks pretty cool. It actually looks like Harrison Ford, more so than a lot of the other Harrison Ford merchandise.
Is it just like Red Hulk, Harrison Ford?
Yeah, it's a bust of him.
Oh, okay. I'm sure there's...
Do you like eat popcorn out of his head, or do you have to flip him upside down? And
You have to like eat it out of the back of his head.
it seems like more like a Hannibal popcorn bucket.
Wow, yeah.
It is dark. I'd like that.
Like Ray Liotta, Ray Liotta
Yeah.
popcorn bucket. For Hannibal.
Oh God, that's disgusting.
Yeah,
Folks, if you've
that's-
seen that scene in Hannibal, press 1 right now in the chat. I don't get the popcorn bucket thing. I mean, look, I understand why it's a thing because studio or theaters needed to make more money because movies people aren't going to see them, they're waiting for streaming. I get all that stuff. I understand the economics behind it. I just don't know why the audience likes them because you get cheated out of popcorn. Popcorn's already expensive, but you'll pay like $50 for this much. Like if popcorn buckets were like legit big, for example, if you paid like $40 for a popcorn bucket and it was the size of like 3 large popcorns, and you're just like, for a novelty's sake, I'm gonna get this giant popcorn. Like then I could get that as a joke, and then maybe I don't know, you get a discounted refill or something on it, maybe even free refills. I understand that value. I guess just is I don't know, as a consumer these days, some of this gimmicky shit, it's just so dumb. Like when did we fall back into gimmicky? I thought we were like a little past gimmicky, where we wanted simplified.
It's desperation for getting people to go to the theaters again. Like I mean, if the movies aren't bringing them to the theaters, it's merchandise is the next step. And and it doesn't need. I mean, the plastic
theater exclusive merchandise
is incredibly cheap because you can make a popcorn bucket for like less than a cent. Based on the mass amount that is actually produced and then distributed to all the theaters,
and then they charge $25 for it.
And then they charge $25 for it, which is actually probably paying off more of the shipping to get those buckets to the to the theaters than it is the actual production itself.
The freight on those is probably a pain in the butt.
Oh yeah, importers always pay the freight, man. Like that's the pain in the butt part. So yeah, that's a sad aspect of it. It is a gimmick because it's not as fun as, say, the giant cotton candy in Super Troopers. Because to your point, Jeff, that would actually be good if it was a giant popcorn bucket, and it has to be that sweet size where it's not too big to be a nuisance, but it's big enough to think that yes, this is actually value for my dollar. Or in the popcorn price, I think $12, something like that.
Yeah, they're like I think $9 by me for a large popcorn.
Still too much.
I'm not disagreeing.
Oh yeah.
At all.
No, I mean, like I empathize with the theaters, but geez, that's
At least they give you a decent amount of butter when you ask.
Mm-hmm.
I try to get popcorn every time I go to the movies, though. It just makes the theater going experience better. Yes, this week when I go see Captain America for the channel, that'll probably be the best part of the day, eating popcorn.
Probably.
And watching the movie.
Does your theater let you order drinks?
No, this one doesn't. If I went to the one 2 to 3 miles further in a different direction, I could go drink in the theater, but I got to get back on the highway and drive here and take care of business. So
I don't mean have a ton, but just knocking back a single beer.
I don't have that option at this theater. I don't think I've ever. Well, no, I've done that for a couple movies. When we went and saw the Eternals, when Dion came to visit when I lived in Los Angeles.
Oh, I'm glad you drank for that.
We drank for that one. It was.
So does anyone think the Black Knight, who is cameoed in the Eternals, is going to cameo in Brave New World?
If he does, I won't even notice it's that actor.
Yep.
It has been so long since any of those cameos have popped up in the first place. We're talking 3-4 years. That's an eternity in today's age, where the Hawktua girl's not even famous anymore, and she made that BJ joke less than a year ago.
She had literally 15 minutes of fame.
Well,
yeah, there was that other chick that was catching catfish with her bare hands. She had like actual 15 minutes of fame. Like she came and went.
I forgot about her.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happens. Heck, even that guy that just shot that CEO, that health insurance CEO, his 15 minutes of fame is over.
What, Luigi something?
Yeah.
Oh, Mangione, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No relation to Chuck?
No relation to Chuck. Thank God for Chuck.
I know. Chuck is, he's a national treasure. Yeah. He's good. We'll put it like that. So, anything else you guys want to say about Captain America? There's really not a ton in the world of pop culture. I'm going to start to infuse some newer elements to this show to keep it a little hotter. Because I love hanging out every week, but I want some deeper things to talk about, some more interesting things, some more engaging things with the audience for those out there in the chat talking about Dion Green popcorn buckets shaped like horses. You know, all that kind of good stuff. I'm paying attention to you folks out there.
What are you doing here, and where is my popcorn?
Nay.
Would Dion say nay to that? Or
I wish we would just stop talking about popcorn because it's almost 11 o'clock and I'm not going to eat any, but I really want some popcorn now. I got a popcorn maker in the living room.
Oh, like a legit one?
Yeah, with a
That's
kettle.
cool. Nice.
Yeah, I got it. One of these stores was going out of business, and it's brand new. I was like, all right, well, this makes sense. So, because I had one in California, and I loved the shit out of that popcorn machine. Like, there'd be days where it's like, I don't really feel like cooking either. Will you just make us some popcorn? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And we just eat popcorn as a meal.
God, that is a terrible dinner to have.
Amazing.
I'm alive.
You're still alive, yeah, but jeez.
It was like a 2-time thing, okay?
No, that's fine. No, dude.
Look,
listen,
there
I've
was
been to
cheese,
college
there
too,
was cheese
man.
involved.
I've been to college too, where you eat popcorn because that's all you've got until you can find some money for a real meal.
Oh, I was in my
I had
30s, and we just were lazy as shit.
I had a freaking hot pocket and top ramen for a Thanksgiving dinner one time in college. That was a good time.
Are we trying to out-sad each other? I went home for Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
I don't know what to say.
we had the the Friendsgiving stuff when we couldn't fly back, and that was basically everything that everybody could find in their fridge and freezer, and you just make it, and then you actually end up having leftovers too, and you survive on that until you go home or someone wires you money or payday comes in.
Well, I only lived one state away from where I went to school, so it was just an afternoon's drive to come get me at Michigan State. So I was lucky. I went out of state, but not across the country out of state type of thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, a lot of your states are smaller than the distance we have here in Canada, where it takes you like 10 hours if you're lucky to drive out of a province.
Yeah, it's just you can get to Michigan. I still visit Dion. You can get there in about 4 hours and change. So not a bad drive. It's a lot of work to put in a day. Usually count for 5 hours, folks, but I don't always drive the slowest, if you know what I mean. But
it'd take me 5 hours to drive to Michigan from where I am.
So meet in the middle. Let's go to Big John Steak and Onion.
I think I know where that is, actually.
It's so good. Oh, folks, I need to get a YouTube show, kind of like that Dave Portnoy pizza. I'll do sandwiches. Well, other people do sandwiches. I don't know. I just like sandwiches. I think it'd be fun. Or types of cornbread or jerky. There we go. I'll be the world's jerky taster. That's not happening. That's a joke. Anyway, yes, I agree. But without butter or salt, popcorn's also relatively tasteless. I'm just joking.
Yeah.
I can eat it without it. I actually like it with if you make it with coconut oil and salt. That's my favorite recipe for it.
I'm a kettle corn guy, or like a traditional like ultra butter type of guy when it comes to my popcorn.
Ultra butter should just be an actual thing.
Yeah.
Like it's a quantifiable amount. It's a quart of butter.
A quart of butter. Oh my god,
it's like,
that's so
I want
much
ultra
butter.
butter, and they just go pump you out a quart of that real
Right.
butter. Shake. Your popcorn's glistening.
That's amazing. That's the only way.
If it's made with real butter, I'd feel less worried about. I mean, look, it's not great to eat that much butter. I'm not gonna act like it's healthy, but I'd rather eat that much butter than that much of that oil fake shit.
Oh yeah, no, screw that.
It's like at least it's real, real cream and salt. Ooh, all right, script. That's a good restaurant. I gotta get some of that red sauce.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've had them, but that's gotta be done.
That's a college treat. I will not necessarily not be at the toy show at Xenia. Landon, what I mean by that is, I could go as just a fan, like walk around, hang out, check out, maybe film some footage, make a video or something. I might do that. That's a possibility depending on the weekend. But folks, I will be working the Lexington Comic and Toy Show. I just made sure I got my point of service system, so we'll take credit cards at the con. Got to remember, folks, you may know me as the YouTube guy, but before YouTube was a thing, I actually worked the convention circuit all around the country. That's how I made a living. It was kind of cool, kind of weird that I went from college to that. I never really, got into the private sector job type of market. So I'm going back to that because I really miss it. And now that I have books and people know us from the channel, it all kind of works to our favor because we get to hang out with everybody and, get books in people's hands. That's the goal, to get people to read these comics, and then we get them turned into adaptations. Look, the Stealing Solo trilogy, it was golden. And wait till you see what I got planned for the second and third books. Can't tell you about the third one because the second one's in production. That's the one you want to know about. But I'll tell you more about it when it comes time. But Landon, I do want to try to make it up there. I want to try to make it to as many things as possible, to some of these group meetups, hangouts, get the WCBS name out there. Just go, make more friends and network more. It's just been a busy time. I know I moved back about 2 years ago, but in that time I really did a lot of work on Bookbusters, did this, we'll have done Stealing Solo 2, and done a lot of other stuff. So now that that's starting to level out, because I got stuff under control, I want to do more networking and YouTube-y stuff. Oh, stop talking about snacks, folks. It's too late for snacks. It's 11 o'clock. I'm not going to give in.
It's never too late for snacks.
If we snack now, we're going to have a sugar rush and be awake for another couple hours.
Yeah, I might have to watch reruns of the Goldbergs or something to help me fall asleep.
There you go.
Check out St. Dennis Medical, new show on NBC, and I think you can stream it on Peacock. It's actually pretty good and funny.
I think I know that one. Let me make sure.
It's about the hospital, and you've got the blonde chick from Reno 911.
Yep, that's the one I thought it was.
Yep.
Wendy McClendon Covey, I think is her name. It's also got David Allen Greer, which I'll watch that dude in anything.
Oh, he is so good.
I still say my favorite David Allen Greer moment is in Tales from the Hood, when he's the abusive stepdad, because he never plays a bad guy in anything, and he's actually creepy when you see him play a bad guy.
Yep.
That's what I really enjoy about that performance.
I
folks,
like that performance. What makes me laugh the most is his performance in Blank Man. For some reason.
Yeah. Blank Man's just a great movie. It's supposed to be a handyman movie, but they can't get away with making that, so we'll just turn him into Blank Man. And Living Color was great, though. I wish we had some kind of raw comedy like that, but I don't know where you would display it these days. I guess the internet, but it won't get enough eyes to turn those things into movies.
It's a Herculean endeavor to do that, because even some of the comedy channels that don't ascribe to the political correctness level or woke ideology, they struggle to get a lot of views. And it's not for the lack of, David Allen Greer has even said publicly, he'd love to do more living color like sketches, but no one on television network will host it for them. They won't be broadcast. They'd have to do it on their own. And that's a risk. That's a much riskier investment financially these days than it would have been to just make the show yourself, film it, and then try and shop it around to networks or affiliates for them to broadcast during, lower hours. So yeah.
Well, hopefully we can find a way to make an alternative. The books I'm working on are funny. They're comedies, so you guys can check those out for an alternative if you want something to laugh at, especially if you want to laugh at the stuff we talk about here on the channel. So, what else is there to really talk about this week, guys? Is there any big stuff happening in the world? What am I missing out on? Even outside of pop culture, geek culture stuff.
I'll be honest. I just spent the last handful of days in Orlando for MegaCon. Geek culture is all my brain has been steeped in lately. I don't know what the real world looks like right now.
Doesn't look pretty, according to some people. I was at a friends get-together, and people were like, it's the end of the world, this and that. And I'm like, okay, guys, calm down. It's really not that bad right now.
It's not that serious.
No, it's not great, but it's also, we're not going to die tomorrow.
Yeah.
And if we do, I'm sorry. You can tell me I told you so in hell. I may not see a picture of Batman in the background, so my mind's thinking about that kind of stuff. Darkness, no parents.
Yeah, that's dark. Yeah, no, I got nothing else. This has been a dead week news wise. Like, even removing the fact that I was gone Friday through Sunday, there was like nothing really newsworthy. It's all the same stuff right now.
Yeah, I feel like we're in a general malaise as a society again. It's like we made it through the election and the holidays, and now it's just like, okay, and that's it. That's all it is. It's just okay.
Right now it's just kind of is what it is right now.
Super Bowl kind of sucked. If you're a wrestling fan, the Rumble kind of sucked. Everything's just kind of in this weird flatness, and you just deal with it. You're just like, I don't want to sound like a nihilist because I'm not.
Just waiting for it to get better.
Or it's just waiting for it to like get past whatever you're doing to move on to something that is exciting,
Yeah.
Because
no, for sure.
I know a lot of people are like, oh, I'm just gonna watch good anime, and I'm like, okay, well, give me some recommendations, so I'll check out stuff. But overall, for my entertainment, I'm just watching, relatively old movies or trying to fill in gaps in knowledge for like, Star Trek. I'm not saying I'm going to become an expert, but it wouldn't hurt to have seen all the movies once just to say I've seen them.
Sure.
And and I find them entertaining for the most part. Generations, we'll get to that one eventually.
Yeah,
I'm glad you do, Jamie. I feel fine as well.
I feel fine.
I have seen those X-Men shows, Landon. I prefer the X-Men animated series, and anything that doesn't have that X-Men design usually isn't on my... Well, I don't know how to phrase it, because I don't want to act like I don't like the X-Men unless they look like that, because I actually prefer the John Byrne era the most. But when it comes to watching those other shows, I was so attached to the original cartoon that the other ones just wasn't going to do it for me. So
I loved Wolverine and the X-Men. I have it on DVD. X-Men Evolution, not as much.
X-Men or Wolverine and the X-Men, I do like more. What I had seen, I did enjoy. It was from that era of Spectacular Spider-Man and Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. And those were all good shows.
Yeah, where Marvel was actually putting out consistently good animations.
Yep.
They were trying something new.
That's what I wanted to be a comic book artist the most. I was like, I would just sit and study those books for hours and just draw and draw and draw. It was fun. And now I just do the same thing, but draw and draw and draw some more. No, I miss when... I guess it's the novelty. Maybe that's it. We're sitting through the regurgitation of the same old shit over and over again. So maybe we're just tired of it as well. And I don't know what else there is. Maybe we've reached the end of novel ideas, and now it's just how can we rehash old stuff in the most digestible way. Hopefully that doesn't come off as nihilism again, folks, because that's not the plan or the point of this. But I don't know. I guess on the big budget scale, I don't see any of this stuff changing. On the smaller scale, yes, I'm seeing those changes. But I don't think any of the big budget geek culture blockbuster stuff that we tend to talk about as a community, I don't think that's going to change anytime soon.
No, it's we're in a creative rut because the people with the means to do a wide release distribution, whether it's in any form of media, are too afraid to take the risk for something new and fun. And that's hurting us all around because the remakes of things that were popular in previous generations has always been a thing in Hollywood. The reason why we don't notice it as much on the frequency as we do today is because there was plenty of other films and television shows that were being equally, or if not increasingly advertised as counter to the remakes. So the remake would be your safe bet type of thing where, okay, your audience that like the original will probably give this one a shot, with a small percentage refusing to see it because of their purity towards the original. But we also might be able to capture a new audience with this remake as well. But that would be up against an original film or a first-time adaptation of a novel put to screen. So there'd be a bunch of different types of movies out there to show you that, oh, yeah, it's not all just remakes. But now with streaming has now become the place where you go to find original content, and the movie theaters where you go to find the franchises or the remakes. And that should be flipped, in my opinion. Like, you go to the movie theater for the brand new, you go to the movie theater for something, I know a lot of people didn't like it, or at least had enjoyed it for different reasons, but you go to the movie theater for something like A Flight Risk or The Family Plan. But those aren't in theaters for very long. It's only a couple of weeks, then they're on to streaming. And what's the point now? Like, okay, if you're only going to have 2 weeks of an original film in theaters, but you're going to have 4 to 6 weeks of a sequel or a remake in theaters instead. Well, what's the point in going to the theaters? Well, now you have the popcorn bucket. Now you have the exclusive seating. Now you have the surround sound sensory enhancement 4DX or what have you, or 7DX or whatever it is. All the things that have nothing to do with what you're seeing on screen to try and lure you to the theater. And then why do you want to stick with streaming like Tubi, Pluto, Netflix, Hulu, etc.? Well, it's because there's a chance you might actually see something that you didn't see in theaters that you might like, but the value for that has been depreciated because there's no proper campaign for it that was equal to the quality of the work. So there's probably lots of people in the chat who have seen a movie on one of the streaming platforms that they just randomly found and enjoyed, and they probably would share it with their friends, but it's going almost into an empty void because what's taking up all the other oxygen? Well, Captain America, Brave New World, Alien Romulus, Gladiator 2, Jurassic World 7. Like, where is that new, where is that counterculture really being focused on? And it's not focused on the stage it should be.
No, I always like when you break it down because it gives me a different perspective to think about these things. Makes me, I don't know, I won't say less angry about them, but at least every time I approach them, I at least think about them a little more logically. They're bringing out my inner Vulcan script. Thank you. That's what I tell you from the bottom of my heart.
I'm happy to. I mean, if I had like a nice surge of cash and the time to do it, I would definitely do like a scavenger hunt video on my channel once a week of things that you should be watching that are like new, like, because I got my script show every Saturday. That's easier for me to do because it's low maintenance and it's a good discussion. But to actually like produce a video that says, hey, kind of like remember in the old 90s you go to like channel 5 or something and it'd show you like a digital TV guide that would scroll through like, the hours, like the next 4 hours, this is what's going to be on all these channels. Kind of want to try to do something like that, and then showcase maybe 5 things, maybe 3 movies and 2 TV series, or 3 TV series and 2 movies that you should be watching or checking out, whether it's old or most likely new would be better, where you can find them. That'd be something to do, but it's a great deal of work. And sadly, I just do not have the time to do that. But if someone out there, wants to take that idea and run with it, I'll only ask for 10%.
You drive a hard bargain, sir.
But a fair one.
Hard but fair.
So, folks, like I said, we're going to start retooling a couple of things here because to rely on the news each and every week, when we have dry weeks, we can't just have dry shows. No, we're world class after all. So, damn it, I'm tired of this. We're going to fix this up a different way. So, I'm going to be on the Side Scrollers this Thursday at noon, so you can check that out on their channel. Also, we're going to have the podcast on Thursday night, so you don't want to miss that one, folks. Make sure you're there because it's going to be exciting. You definitely want to hear us talk about the Captain America film, at least. Do you want to know how bad it is? You want to know if it's got those elements, if it's clearly a dumpster fire, if it's clearly a rehash of old crap. It's going to be interesting to say the least. So join us on Thursday for that. And yes, folks, I've been away from making some videos. I apologize. I know you miss me. I get the emails. But I had been working on the book, taking care of some family business, and some other things I had to take care of here on the back end of WCBS, like the con. So I've been getting ready, getting everything paid for to get ready to do our first show in like 2 years. So WCBS is back on the con circuit. But we're working them. So we'll have our booth. Come by the Woke Busters booth. Get a copy of the book. get the Stealing Solo book, get up to date on all the information for Stealing Solo 2. And I have Wokebusters keychains that I'll be giving away at the con. If you buy a book, you get a free keychain. So if you want to get one, come down and see me. Come say hey. It's a way for us to say thank you for being a fan of the channel. But folks, I think it's time to get out of here. You guys ready to go?
Let's do it.
Let's
take
off, eh?
All right.
Yay.
All right, so let's not be a couple of hosers. I'll be back next time with more. We'll be back next time with more. But in the meantime, be smart, be safe, be cool. But always be excellent to each other.